Welcome to Tigers Talk, where we discuss secrets from the Kung Fu forest and tales of the Wu Lin. I have with me a very special guest. His name is Sifu Anthony Kelly. He is a multiple Guinness Book of World Records holder.
The new Guinness World Record is 347 punches.
Two Guinness World Records here tonight.
Welcome to Tigers Talk, Anthony. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and hello to all your listeners from around the world.
Oh yeah, well that's right. You're coming in from Australia, really striving to bring the world together in this conversation. So let me just start with a metaphor that I like to use. In Kung Fu, the Wu Lin translates to Kung Fu forest, and the way that I've explained this, every tree within the forest can be considered its own individual school, and then the practitioners of that school are its branches. And so while you look at the forest, you might be able to see individual trees, but if you look up, you see how all the branches really intertwine. And that is like the community that I like to imagine as the Wu Lin.
That's right. I find that too, an analogy of a big family. And, that word is bantied around, but, I know when I went over to the US and met you some time ago, and Gene and some of the other martial artists, I feel like you're part of my family and that we're all in that forest together growing and trying to keep everything very popular and, to be happy together.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a key growth, particularly for those few who haven't had the fortune of meeting you or hearing your story. Can you give them your origin, how you came to be who you are today?
Yeah, so I'm from Armidale, Australia. That's out in the bush. I'm between Sydney and Brisbane, which is a bit hard to understand where it is, but I'm a long way out in the bush. And as a young martial artist, I started when I was 15, and I was watching, people like Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali on television, and hearing stories about them. Also, crazy people like Evil Knievel, and I thought these people are just superhuman, doing spectacular things. And I thought, look, I really wanted to get into some form of martial arts. My father was actually a bare knuckle boxer. He was a truck driver, and but he used to box in the tents when they have a shows come around once a year, and Dad really liked pugilism, so we would often watch, on the old black and white TVs, world championships fights when they'd come on and stuff. And I'm one of five. Have five older brothers, so I was getting picked on a fair bit when I was younger. And things in the 70s were pretty hectic at school, even getting on the bus, there was supremacy to find who's going to sit where and stuff. So anyway, I wanted to get into learn a bit of self-defense and learn about martial arts. So I started to endeavor to look around. Of course, in those days, the early 70s, there wasn't many martial artists around. There was a judo master who came from Hungary, who happened to be a friend of a Chinese man who I know. And so I started to do judo, and I enjoyed it, but it was a bit rough on my body. I wasn't much into the rolling. I thought, where's the fancy kicks and the punches and the Bruce Lee sort of stuff? And so then I got on a journey of trying other martial arts, and I started then to do taekwondo, and then that led me into the idea of to do karate because I wanted to pick up the hand technique that the taekwondo didn't have. And then I thought, oh, hang on, I'm missing a bit of stuff here, and I started to buy heaps and heaps of martial arts magazines. And then I come across a beautiful Chinese girl, her father owned a Chinese restaurant. And so I happened one day to go down into the basement, and here were some of the cooks sparring and doing forms. And I went, oh, this is heaven. And so I asked, could I join in? And they said I had to drop all the other ideas that I had of martial arts, and that if I trained hard in the correct way for 30 years, I would gain success. And so here I am. I have black belts in 21 different disciplines. I have the Guinness World Record for the most coaches qualifications in multiple sports. And I really want to understand how to learn, but also how to teach.
Oh yeah, I mean the two seem to go hand in hand, right? The best teachers
Yes,
always talk about how much they learn along
yes.
the way.
Yeah, so for me now, I look back when I was young and I had no opportunity to go and learn off great masters. I had no opportunity other than some old books that I could pick up if I went into Sydney or something, go to Chinatown and beg, borrow, and steal anything I could and watch. You know, I even have 16 millimeter films that I purchased that I could try to understand how I could learn more and more. So now for me, it gives me so much pleasure. I'll give you an instance, Patrick. I had a young girl last year. She come in and she was actually shaking. She didn't know what martial arts was about. She was very hesitant to get into the class. Within 5 weeks, this girl had just broken out of her cocoon and turned into a wonderful martial arts butterfly. And said to me before Christmas, "Look, so much thanks to you, Mr. Kelly, for getting me into martial arts because it's something I really wanted to learn, but I thought it might be dangerous, I might get hurt or whatever." And so I'm really happy to still coach well for my students to learn faster. It's something I wish that I would have had when I was a younger person.
Oh, I mean, that's just such an amazing story. I mean, like those are like the true victories, right? A lot of people think about is something practical for the streets, or is this going to be useful in a cage? But there's this whole other layer where it's, you know, the success comes in these hidden ways and in a much quieter way, but it seems to have a deeper meaning.
My understanding of what Kung Fu is was really a bit different to what I imagined was going to be. But the self fulfillment of my life, when I, used to talk to my father in law, he used to say, Kung Fu simply means to work hard. He said, look at the cooks in the kitchen, they have really good Kung Fu. I go to the butcher who has good Kung Fu. Anything as well, after you train hard in the correct technique, you will succeed. And so as you know, Patrick, I have many Guinness World Records. I'm Australia's leading Guinness World Record holder of all time. And I use those goals of mine to set to see what can I achieve and also what can human body endure to go through realistically. Because as many people know, there's a lot of falsities in martial arts and a lot of things about, you know, the secret martial arts. Well, I've been invited to most TV shows in the world, as when I met you in Mythbusters, to dispel what is realistic, but also what is achievable. To catch a tennis ball at 300 kilometres an hour.
From a distance of 6 metres.
There we go. Oh, gee, these hurt.
Well, with correct martial arts training, with the self-belief and the idea of what we can achieve, it is possible.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, just watching some of your feats are just guaranteed inspiration to see your willingness to stand in front of a paintball gun and just be repeatedly shot at, and here you are seeking to break the record for catching.
Catch a tennis ball fired from this cannon.
You're willing to feel the pain of potential failure each time.
Yeah.
That.
And to reset my mind, and this is something that if I could get anything across today, Patrick, would be really important. Because imagine for a moment that you are standing in front of a paintball gun, and and I've done a blindfold also to set the world record. No one's even come close to that. But to get hit and have that pain, but to then reset your mind to be able to get back into what I'm trying to achieve is the key. So when I'm sparring, it's the clearness of the mind to be able to focus on a particular idea. So it's not about catching paintballs, but it's about to stay fully focused. When some people ask me, do I meditate? I go, yeah, I'll meditate, all right, when I'm getting shot by a tennis ball or catching an arrow blindfold or doing something physical. Yes, I do stop and smell the roses, and I do give thanks to our most magnificent world, but I also enjoy the other side, which is really to be immersing myself in a particular thing, whether it's trying to throw 12,000 punches in one hour, and to be able to just keep going and going reset, and go and reset and get tired. And yes, I can do it. And another good analogy for me is to understand that I am me and that I can be the best I possibly can be. We have different journeys in our life and different paths in the forest. And how I ended up on that one, I'm really blessed to have gone down. I'll never forget one day we started to do martial arts demonstrations in the restaurant, you see. And I'll never forget, I said, Dad, I want to get a giant big block of ice and make a big block of ice so I can come out and do a big breaking demonstration of ice. And he said, oh, yeah, okay, put it in the freezer. And so I had to work out how I was going to get this foam and make the foam thing up and put plastic in. And so I set it there, and next morning I come down and I opened up the door, and here's an inch of ice all over the floor of the big refrigerator. And I can remember Dad coming down and going, I cannot believe what you've done. But he said, look, this is a dream you want to achieve. Get in there. And I chiseled it all out. I made a better container, made another giant big ice block. And then when I broke it, Dad said, well, I'm glad that you achieved. But in achieving, you also have to have failures, which was, again, such a powerful thing in his Kung Fu mind. He knew that I wanted to achieve a particular goal. And that's one of many stories that really assisted me in my own self-belief.
That's so excellent. I mean, the one thing that comes to mind is like, do you think that that experience of going back downstairs and really taking the risk of saying, I want to learn from you, right? Because there's cultural barriers, there's social barriers to those sorts of things. So do you think that taking that risk prepared you for the quest of breaking records, or were you already like inclined towards
Yeah,
that kind of like ambition?
I certainly was. One thing I really thought, I wanted to immerse myself in uh, his reality, and his reality was in 32, he had to escape Guangzhou because the Japanese were going in there. He jumped on a boat, hid on a boat, come over to Australia. He had to himself succeed. He ended up marrying a white lady, and that was going really against not just, I suppose, Chinese, but in our small city, for a white lady to be able to marry a Chinese person was a sort of a bit of a taboo, especially in a highly Catholic type of community. So I respected Dad for doing that, and he also knew that I wanted to be most probably more Chinese than him. So his own family, my wife's family, none of them ever learned Cantonese. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was to learn Cantonese, and I started to learn Cantonese, and then some other members of the family wanted to start learning about Dad's culture, and that was really cool. It was an idea that key opened up many doors. So I didn't realise that he was a big man in Chinatown in Sydney, and I got to then get on to meet other grandmasters of other styles like Hung Kern, Hung Gar, Wing Chun, Chorley Fort, and some of the other more shadier people too, I suppose, down in Chinatown. But to be accepted not as a Guaylan, as a foreign devil, but as a person who really wants to immerse themselves in the idea that we can better ourselves no matter what race or creed that you come from.
Kung Fu is such a treasure that China has brought to the world. And yet
Yeah,
there's that dynamic of how cultural treasures are treated, right? Sometimes they are exoticized and made into something that's not quite real. Other times they're exploited, right? And
that's
within
right.
that context, how does an individual with heart like navigate those pitfalls?
Yeah. Again, I think the hard work of these people seeing me with my love of wanting to explore. So just not martial arts, right? But of course, the lion dance. And I'll show you my Chinese lions. I was the first person, for instance, here at that time, say 25, 30 years ago, there must have been 7 or 8 Chinese restaurants who were really sort of segregated. They didn't have much to do with each other. But then one day, Dad said, well, why don't you buy a Chinese lion? I'll buy it for you. So you can put on a demonstration line dance at the restaurant for the Gungi Fa Choi. And so I said, cool. So I went back down to Chinatown and got an old line off Choi Li Fot, an old broken thing that, you know, they didn't want to have anymore. But I immersed myself in that. I bought videos, I bought books and stuff, step by step, and I learned off one of the other cooks how to use it. And that really brought the whole community together. You know, we used to have all the Chinese, they would get together, we'd have fireworks and everything like that. And that really made me super special. When I became a Kung Fu master, I remember the whole community coming together and accepting me of who I am, of a person who really wants to better himself. They come from, you know, some smaller villages in China, a couple from Hong Kong, but they knew that I had the love to learn. And that was a really good boost for me, because I didn't really think highly of myself, and I suppose I don't. You know, although I've been on most of the world's biggest television shows and I've got a lot of accolades, you know, from the Queen and all that sort of stuff and medals, I still am that young boy who has the hunger to learn, you know, the idea of being a tiger for a day than a lamb for a year. That rings in my ears all the time.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, your spirit is still so young, like it just comes through, and like your passion is just, you know, is undiminished. It shows. And while we're on the topic, where here we are, Chinese New Year is happening. It's the year of the tiger.
Yeah, here's my lines. Can you see them?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, so I've got the boy and the girl and a few others, and yeah, the year of the tiger. I'm looking forward to it. You know, we've had such a turbulent year around. Um, what does the year of the tiger mean to me? Well, it's serendipitous that I'm talking to you with Tiger Tail, and I did hear of my Chinese friends the other day that this year is a 60-year cycle coming through of the tiger, and they actually said it's going to be a very turbulent year, and we know that already, right? We know that the last 2 years have not been good. I can see the year of the tiger being a ferocious year, and it's a year where I need to train hard. But it also, if I look at the Chinese almanac, it is another way this year of getting rid of the evil. It's getting rid of the bad stuff, getting rid of negativity, to be a lion, to be a tiger, to step up and to be hungry to achieve. I have some of my Guinness World Records. This will give you an instance, Patrick, and your viewers see this is some of my certificates around the wall.
Each one is, you know, is concrete proof of an epic accomplishment. And
So
I
also
mean,
I have there 3 empty certificates, and that means to me that this year is a, you know, goal setting, that I want to be able to achieve my goals and to be hungry to keep demonstrating not only to others. I'm really lucky that people are interested around me in the world, but that I am achieving. I'm still training. I'm still trying to get out there to live my life and to be as a tiger for a day than a lion. You know, I'm happy.
oh, that's awesome. Well, while we have the subject of your string of victories, all of those records, can you share with us like the story of that first one, that first record that you broke, what it was like to set that goal and accomplish it?
Yeah. So some of your viewers and listeners may have watched this old Bruce Leroy, The Last Dragon. Because I've watched a lot of movies, but I come across this movie and it was way out there. I mean, it was exactly what I thought. You know, this fellow who wanted to be Bruce Lee, you know, and he was training with an old master, and exactly the same as me. It didn't matter what he was, what color or what ethnicity. He wanted to learn martial arts. He wanted to be a master. He wanted to self-master himself. So the opening scenes start with him catching an arrow. And I thought, catching an arrow, wow, that's so much different to breaking things, you know, or doing the particular martial arts things that I was doing at the time. And I thought, look, I will get into this. It's something that I don't know why. It would be really cool if I could catch an arrow. So I investigated it, and I thought, hang on, I wonder if it's possible that someone could really do it as a martial artist. Because, of course, on the movie, they actually had the arrow on a string, and if you pause the movie, you can see that little arrow flying down. So anyway, I got one of my young black belts, and I said, look, I want you to shoot some arrows for me. And he said, well, how do you shoot an arrow? So I had to teach him how to shoot an arrow for a start, and that was quite a challenge to do. And we had this on. So we started to do it in the backyard. This was a couple of weeks before my big martial arts demonstration that I used to do. And I done it for many years, so I pulled everyone around in the district, in the community, and got to a point where people were travelling up to 8 or 10 hours in cars and stuff to come to a martial arts night, because I believe that this is where some people are wrong, that my style is no more important than yours. No other person is more important than anybody else. So I thought, look, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this demonstration in the restaurant? And so I'll never forget going down the day before, and the local newsman was in there reading Chinese, you see. Anyway, he sort of looked in, he said, what's going on? I said, oh, look, I'm going to try a world first. I'm going to catch an arrow in the restaurant here for the thing tomorrow night. Anyway, he goes, oh, right, that's interesting. Little did I know, he went off and he put it on television, that this big spectacular was going to go on. I had no idea, but Andy and I went in. There was not enough light in there. I could hardly even see this thing flying. I had a bit of a target set up on one of the Chinese chairs. The arrow, first one's went boom, straight through. And I went, oh no, and I pulled off the thing. And I'm there with my foot against the chair, pulling this arrow out of one of Dad's chairs. And he's come in and going, what in the hell is going on here? I said, oh, Dad, it's just another achievement I'm trying to accomplish. So anyway, the next day came, and it becomes so crowded. I couldn't let anyone else in. All the people were out in the foyer area, all looking, and people all had cameras. We had 2 film crews coming up. So anyway, Funk goes the first one, and I missed it. And then Funk, I caught the second one. And to much applause and local celebrity idea, and it was in the paper, front page, all this sort of stuff. I thought, well, what if I send it to London to see if this could be a Guinness World Records? Well, within 6 weeks, I was on an aeroplane going over to Madrid, Spain, to do it live in front of, I think, 5,000 people in the audience to 20 million people live. And what a surreal thing to come from the bush, to never have been on an aeroplane, to be over the other side of the world in the middle of, it was their winter, which was minus 10 degrees. It was just an unbelievable thing. So I then become one of Guinness World Records' most popular artists, where I would do things like catch paintballs and do arrow catching, blindfold, throwing chopsticks, the most punches in 1 minute.
Go.
Already one record under his belt tonight. The crowd gets Anthony off to a raucous start. Plenty of applause. He believes that he can punch between 250 and 300 times in a minute. 400 pounds per square inch. Down to the 30-second mark. The lactic acid building up in his arms, making this a very tough task. See the strain. It's one of 2 styles of punches allowed under the Guinness World Record guidelines, a straight or an uppercut. Anthony's elected to go with a straight punch. Fighting it all on the way home now. 10 seconds to go.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah!
400, 1 hour, 12,000, and I set a world record for the most punches in 1 second, 13, which was one of my greatest achievements. That I'd heard Bruce and Muhammad were doing an average of 8. I'm not saying that I'm a faster puncher than them, but to get a record like that has certainly been a real mind bender. But again, back to that young boy who was thinking I can achieve they are sort of marks on my tree to say that I have achieved and that I can still achieve.
Right now, your count of records is how many?
I'm 53 at the moment.
53. And I
Yeah.
noticed that you still had spots for 3 more slots. Do you have a specific number you plan to stop at, or?
Yeah, I would like this year. I'm 58 this year, so I really like 58. I only wanted to do that one, and then I was really, really happy to do 10. I thought that would be cool. Then I hit 21, and then more and more people, they just asked me to go on their television shows or to do things. So, you know, some of the crazy things I'm doing at the moment, the most targets hit last year with a blowgun in 1 minute. And I
Mhm.
mean, that sounds sort of relative. I do martial arts sort of records more than, you know, blowing a Malteser with a straw. Stupid records I steer clear of.
Mhm.
But to be able to shoot a target, you know, 40 times with a blowgun sounds sort of easy enough in 1 minute. But to inhale and exhale the amount of air that I have to, and to blow out a dart over 100 kilometres per hour, the last time I done that record, I actually fainted after the record because the amount of intake of oxygen and stuff. In talking about that in martial arts terms, it's not about actually how many targets I could hit blindfold with a blowgun or the most chopsticks thrown, but it's about actually getting my body to do what I need to do. Some years ago, I went to a television show in Italy, and I met a young fellow who was putting the most straws in his mouth. He didn't really understand what my record was until after I caught the most tennis balls in 1 minute blindfold. And later, he was so excited and animated. He was going, you, and I'm going, what the hell is this bloke on about? And it's because before the show, I do these qigong to get all this oxygen into my brain, to clear my brain, to get the cells running around the body, that he then knew that he'd seen me so many other times on different TV shows around the world. I thought he's now got the point. I explained to him about how it's the warm up and the readiness to be able to achieve. We are a little bit different to other people who are the hairiest man, the smallest woman in the world is a great friend of mine. I've met the tallest men in the world, the strongest men, and all this sort of stuff. And we all have one thing in common, which is we want to believe and achieve.
This could be a new world record.
It sure is.
We have it clear as day on high-speed camp.
I know the bloke who holds his breath underwater for the longest time. You know, I'm really interested to get into their brain to understand how can you achieve this and what's going on in your mind. And to me, that's helped me, assist me do my world records.
That's just excellent.
Some stage soon I will give up world records to really focus more on my own martial arts development of my own students. But again, to me, it's just a gauge. So every year I think, like for instance, this year I have 3 records that I want to try and achieve that no one in the world has ever done before, like some of my other records, to really see if I can leave a legacy that someone at some stage down the track will say, oh, look, this bloke caught a tennis ball from 2,000 feet being dropped by a drone. How can he do that at such velocity and this sort of stuff? I'm trying to do things that people will go, well, hang on, no one can catch a paintball bullet at 300 feet per second blindfold. But for me to have left a real legacy so someone can say, well, hang on, someone has achieved that. That's really important to me. Some of my other crazy records, like the most candles extinguished with a single punch or a single kick, people now are trying to do that record. And I think, you know, you and Jean know I went on Mythbusters and I can do this. I can blow out 3 candles. I can blow out the middle candle and leave the first and the last going. I can blow out the last and the first and leave the middle going. And this has got to do with my martial arts skill of internal striking without leaving a bruise. That to me is really important that martial artists understand that we can do those crazy or really sort of different martial arts skills that the old people done. That's important to me. What's more important that I tell my students, I had a young girl not long ago where we do this palming exercise, and I can, rip out God knows how many. No one is faster than me to do this palming. So, Patrick, if you put your right hand and left hand, run back, 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 back. This young girl kept up with me at the end of the year, who'd been training with me for 10 years and is ready to go for her black belt. I said to her, now, my accomplishment has been done, which was that she is equaling, she couldn't keep up with the duration that I could do it, but she was equaling me for the first time in my 40 years of martial arts experience and over 35 years of coaching. That made me super proud. More important than any world records there is for her to have that skill to be able to do it.
That's excellent. Oh, well, Anthony, we're coming to the close of our time, so I just wanted to give you the opportunity. Is there anything that you've been wanting to say that you may not have had the chance?
I would like to thank you very much for your time, and I hope that people enjoy my story as I enjoy watching you, progressing on, and your Tiger's Tail and your fantastic drawings. Your drawings to me I love other arts, music and artistry and stuff. Your last drawing that you had, I've done my the Buddha and stuff. Oh, the crazy monkey, I just loved it, and I can see your kung fu skill coming through there. And this was something that people of old school know. Music and art, calligraphy and stuff all go hand in hand with being masters of our art. And if I can finish by saying, believe and achieve. My practice's motto is the key to success. And my greatest realization was when I was 21, living way out in the bush, working on a big property, going, who am I? What am I doing out here? What can I do? And I realized, hang on, there's one of me in the world. And everyone should realize there's only one of them in the world, and they too can achieve whatever their goal is.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Tigers Talk, and I hope you can come back again where we could maybe check in on how the year's progressed.
My pleasure. And Gongi Fachoi, everyone, the year of the local of the tiger.
Yeah, Gong Chi Patsai.
Hey, Gongi. Hope you all have a good time. You stay safe, and let's hope that we can get back to some normality. And maybe one day soon I'll be back over in your neck of the woods doing more television.
To really catch an arrow. He got one. The plan is to use 3 archers, Jamie and 2 secret shooters, all firing straight at the ninja's body.
Before they fire.
He finally caught one. So is it a case of myth busted or plausible?
In the battle scenario, Anthony was in fact able to catch an arrow.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Anthony. This has been a great pleasure.